all to like just think about the tension that you felt. Like up here we even had, I don't know if I like this game, it's all anxiety for me, it's anxiety. And you know, you're going along, maybe you get the dice and you roll that 3 and you are flying and you're just in the zone. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're like maybe even 96, 97, 98. And then someone rips the pencil out of your hand and you're like, no, the pencil. And I can't help but think of preschoolers when I think of this, because there is a tension in preschoolers and their focus that every time, you know, guys, it's time to clean up. No, the pencil is basically what they're screaming, or mom and dad are at home and they're like, you know, it's time for nap. And as sweet as they can say it, it doesn't really matter. There is going to be this incredible response. Cue the drama for the preschoolers, because they are so zoned in often on what they are doing or what they want, right? And it is so hard to get them to move from one thing to the next. And so as we think about what we get to do with preschoolers, I want us to remember that tension, that we get to figure out fun ways to move them from one thing to the next and hopefully take down some of the tension. And if we learn to speak preschooler, then we might do a little bit better with that. So we're going to get started, and I should say, I'll just talk you through what we're going to do throughout the time. So this is session 1. We're just going to talk about the 5 keys to thinking like a preschooler. A lot of the stuff that I pulled from is from this book, if any of you have ever read it. It's great. It's a lot of information, but it's called It's Just a Phase, so don't miss it. This has like up through like graduation. So there's a lot of information in this book, but I previewed and looked through and kind of pulled out my favorite preschool tips. So that's what we're going to be working with. And it's great if you like some light reading. It actually has not a lot of words on each page, so it is kind of light reading. It's fun. But one of the things that I love most is that I love God's word, and I want to speak it well. And I think a lot of you would say the same. I never want kids to think that church is boring. I always want them to love coming, because they love the people who are here and because of what they're learning. And so we're just going to keep that stuff in mind as we go this evening. And the first tip to thinking like a preschooler, one of my favorites, is that we want to think like an artist. So in keeping with thinking like an artist, your tablecloth is your notes for the evening. So anything that you want to remember, you're going to color it on the table. That's what the markers are for. If you must use like one of those little papers, you certainly can. And then we're just going to take pictures of our artwork at the end so that we can remember the different points that we want to keep in mind as we serve on the weekend. Okay, so everybody get your markers handy. If you need to trade them throughout the night, feel free. But the first point is to think like an artist. So back in the fall, I was, I think, serving in the 4s and 5s room. And if you pay attention really closely to the 4s and 5s curriculum, there's always a question that they will ask in there, usually like after snack time, to get them thinking about the lesson and how they can implement it, and then pray and talk to God about the things that are on their minds and hearts. And a lot of times, like, preschoolers are good talkers, even though you can't understand what they're saying all the time. But when you ask them a deeper question, it's a little like crickets. Like, are they actually going to talk about what we're talking about? Are you really going to share the thing that I asked the question about? You know, it could go either way. And sometimes they're into their cracker that they have in their hand or whatever. And so I remember I'm like, how do I get their attention? So I was standing by the whiteboard, and I just grabbed the whiteboard marker, and as I asked the question, I'm like, so, you know, I'll just pick one. It was like, if you were going to have Jesus over for dinner like Zacchaeus or whatever, you know, what would you feed him? And the kids were like, and I was like, who would like to draw their answer on the whiteboard? And they were all like, I'd give him spaghetti. And they were in. And it was so funny, like suddenly they had a way that they were going to share their answer. And so I put like little blocks on the whiteboard and I gave them each a block. And as they were eating their snack, we like had the best discussion about all the things that they were gonna serve at their homes. Because, and I'll tell you, they didn't look anything like what they said. Maybe spaghetti, because that's just scribble. But like strawberries and all that kind of stuff, you would never have known. But they knew, and they were able to share it too. So it was just so much fun, and it made me think, oh yeah, preschoolers, they think like artists. But I also want to clarify, because it's not necessarily the typical thing, like they're not literal artists. We know that. So what does it mean to think like an artist? Let me share this with you. Artists experience the world through activities that stimulate their 5 senses, so that's important. Preschoolers blend reality with imagination and learn through participation. A baby's brain has more neurons than at any other time in their life, and those neurons are forming 2 million synapses every second. In this phase, they are mildly aware of everything in their environment. They take it all in at an unfathomable pace. Preschoolers learn experientially through their senses from someone who responds to them. Like artists, they learn best when they can make it with their hands. This is why movement, music, and art are critical for this age. So let's just kind of play that out. This is a hammer. Way to go, guys. This is a hammer. And if we're going to think about this through all the preschool ages, like how would they interact with a hammer? So nursery, if I hand this to a little baby,
it's in their mouth.
It's in their mouth, so it goes right to taste, and they're like, and we're like, why? Why are they doing that? But they are checking it all out, and it is drool city, and they are loving it, and they are experiencing it, and we are hopefully moving it to the sink so it can be washed. By the time they get closer to 1, maybe they pick it up and they're like, possibly hitting themselves on the head, or, yes, yes. By 2, like what are they doing with it when they're 2? Okay, yes, they get that idea. They love the sound. They're like, what is that? And then they're like, whack to the other child. So then you've got like the crying children. It's like a whole thing. Maybe when they're 3, what's it look like when they're 3?
Pounding holes in the wall.
Oh, goodness. Well, they do get stronger. That is true. And we may have to remove it to get the holes in the wall.
Use it more properly?
Okay, yeah. They probably have developed it a little bit. Maybe they've watched a work project at home.
Finding something that looks like a
Yes. Okay. And they're hitting it. Or there's the toy that they actually use, right? And they're like hammering in the thing because they start to get it. And they actually start to pretend maybe what it's used for. And then by 4, what are they?
They want nothing to do with it.
It's old news.
Oh, maybe. Or what if, I could think of 2 things. What if they have the whole set? Now it's just like one of the things in their little work belt, and they've got their hard hat on. They are like dressed to the nines and all of the tools that they can find. I was thinking, and then they're like really trying to do projects and things. I also think that I've walked into like 4-year-olds and I've seen them with the hammer, and I'm like, dude, you working on some big projects today? I like your hammer. And they're like, this is an airplane, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, silly me, because they've created their own imagination. They've brought that into it. And so even just one thing, they've tasted it, they've heard it, they've seen it. There's all these things that are going on, and they're making connections with it. And you know what? Part of me is like, I'm like, but are we really using that the way it's meant to be used? Here, let me show you, or whatever. But it's okay. It's okay if they use it, and it's okay if they get creative with it. And so as we think about them being an artist and doing all those things differently, we need to recognize that I do actually have kind of a tension in this, and I bet many of you do too. And I think it's probably best explained with I don't know if you've ever seen these memes, but I kind of love them. So if you want to put that up there. I'm going to read for you in case you can't read it. But this is like when they asked you, like, oh, would you like to serve with preschoolers at church? You know, you probably had this picture of what it looked like. And we do that with different things, right? Maybe it's the one at the top. What my friends without children think toddlers do. You know, oh, they like snacks or whatever. What my parents think toddlers do. You know, they don't remember necessarily. That was a long time ago. They just sit and read books. That's all you got to do with them. What society thinks toddlers do. Children these days. What are they doing? That's not how they were back in the day. I don't know. What my brother thinks toddlers do, like climbing all over, wrestling, all that kind of stuff. What I think toddlers do, oh, they're just so cute. I could work with toddlers. That would be fun to do. And then reality hits. Like what toddlers do. They are going to experience life to its fullest in all its messy glory because they are just taking in so much. And so the tension there for us often comes that we are looking for, what word would you use? Like, or we have expectations of order, and so we walk in and we're like, oh, let's sit down at our table. How about we choose a chair, everybody? And we're like, oh, happy day when they all choose a chair. And you know, we're thinking of all the order and calm and peace because that's what we like, you know. And so there's a weird tension between letting them think like an artist and us coming into our church rooms and being like, all right, here's how it's going to be, you know, and things like that. So we want to be careful not to set overly restrictive limits. Do we need to set limits? Yes, guys, we do. But we want to make sure we're thinking like an artist and letting them experience some things, like giving them an opportunity with the whiteboard, or I'm sure as I was sharing that, you're all kind of thinking like, actually, you know, we could use this in our room, or we could do this with them to help them experience things differently, or what could we do with the babies so that they could all, you know, how can we keep track of all the toys that have been eaten in this hour? And, you know, you're just letting them experience, because in nursery, I'm like, oh, don't put that in your mouth. Well, that's a baby, you know, and so we don't want to put overly restrictive limits on our kids. We want to give them opportunities. My second part of our pie, if you're drawing a pie on your table, the first one was think like an artist. This one is turn up the wonder dial. And I said the last one was maybe my favorite, but maybe this one really is my favorite. I love this. There are 3 drives that can show up in kids. So we're talking all the way up until high school, graduation. They are as follows. There's wonder, discovery, and passion. And at each age, one of them is probably rising higher than the other. Any ideas what one preschoolers are rising high on? Wonder, discovery, and passion, you would say? Wonder. Good answer, because it's kind of on the screen. Wonder is what is high. And so we want to turn up the wonder dial. Think about it. You can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice. What's that? Who's that? You know, did you see that as they talk? They may even have just things that they're trying to like put words to. They don't even know how. For a while, my son Cody was so interested in like fire engines and police cars, and he would hear them. And at first, I had no idea what he was talking about. He would suddenly get quiet, and he goes, oh! And he'd think, that's a wheel. I'm like, a what? He goes, it's a wheel. And I'm like, I don't know what, tell mommy one more time. It's a wheel. And then I listened, and sure enough, he's like, wheel, 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 wheel. I'm like, oh my goodness, I would have had a hard time coming up with that. And for a long time, that's what he called them. You know, he's just taking in, and all of us can probably think of things that kids have called different items just because they're trying to place it, because they're wondering and they're taking in all of that information. There's the famous question that all kids will ask, which is the one-word question. Why? Yep, that's it. It might come when they're looking at fluffy clouds. Well, why is that up in the sky? And why do you butter your toast like that? Or I don't know, it could be anything. But here's the thing that I want us to keep in mind for Sunday mornings. This is so cool. And it's probably when I'm at my best on a Sunday morning. Are you ready? Here's the key phrase. As soon as I find it. Kids will wonder at the things we find wonderful. Full of wonder. Kids are going to wonder at the things we find wonderful. So, how does that play out? How many times have you seen a kid want the TV remote or a cell phone? It could be, we might flippantly say something like, oh, they just want what they can't have. You know, but the truth is, they see us finding those things wonderful and spending a lot of time looking at those things, and they're like, well, that must be something interesting. So what do we do with that on a Sunday? Let me give a couple examples of how we can elevate their wonder. If a crying child gets dropped off to the nursery window, right? And I'll use an illustration that Denise gave me the other day. She had a crier. Mom knew it, and Mom was like, he's gonna cry, it's gonna be okay, and passed off. And so Denise took him right over to the side where it was all the Woodlands characters, and she was just like, oh my goodness, would you look at, she wasn't even looking at the child necessarily. She was looking at the wall, and she was making up this little story about maybe this animal's gonna run up here, and maybe he's gonna run down here, and sooner than later, he was totally fine, because he was probably like looking at her like, do you know that's not real? No, I don't know. But we don't know what's going on in their mind, but she was having so much fun with it that he was having fun with it. And so we do things like maybe they didn't even realize that could be wondered at, but because she did, he did. Maybe that's why we walked to a window with the crying baby. And even if we think about space for kids, this is just like a little side note. If like those in-your-face kid moments where you're like, peekaboo, peekaboo, you know, all that, that's what you think of when you think of baby in the nursery. That's really, really great when you have a relationship with the child and they are not unhappy. You know, then they love to be in your face and doing all the things, but when they are sad, they like want nothing to do with you. And so if we kind of turn our attention away from them, we're still holding, we're still being caring and kind, but we are focusing on something else. It actually takes their eyes off of themselves. It takes their eyes off of you, and it just lets them focus on something else. And what a cool gift that we can give kids who are struggling. In 2s and 3s, if it's worship time and the songs are playing, but if you look interested, if you start dancing, they may not dance, but they're gonna look at you and they're gonna be like, man, she needs some dance lessons or something. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because you're having fun with it. In 4s and 5s, if Ollie is asking questions and I'm responding, the kids are suddenly like, oh, we're watching something? You know, oh, okay, yeah. And I try to do it loudly, and if they say anything remotely funny on the screen, I'm like, you know, just laughing up a storm, having a good time, and helping them wonder at what I find wonderful. So here's 3 tips to keep in mind for elevating our wonder dial. 1 is imagine out loud, okay? If you wonder, so will they. Ooh, look at this. Oh my goodness, how did you build that? Or what would happen if we added a block? Or whatever it is, whatever you can wonder at what they're doing, that'd be great. So imagine out loud was 1. 2, elevate your animation. You don't have to be Mary Poppins. Well, actually, she wasn't that animated. We'll pick somebody else. Barney, I don't know. You know, you don't have to be that person, but you do have to elevate who you are naturally, right? Up it a little bit, give more to gain more attention. And then this is my favorite, is actually just say, I wonder, right? I wonder what would happen if we all got to the table for snack time and we did it on our tiptoes. And then you start, and then they start, and they're like, we did it. Did it do anything? Well, it got them all to the table, and then you just compliment them. And, you know, it's just because you wondered, and they had fun with it. And so we're going to elevate our wonder. We are also going to tell a great story. I think the easiest avenue for us is probably in our rooms, and that is all those books that are given. They have beautiful illustrations, all that kind of stuff. Many kids enjoy books, some do not, but it's time, the next time you read a book in one of our areas, check your wonder dial. How did you do? Did you elevate the wonder of that, or did you just like, okay, quick, we'll read while you guys are getting ready, they're doing one fish, two fish, red fish, you know, or whatever. We really want to take a moment to up that wonder dial if we're reading a book. Now, the other part of telling a story that gets a little bit tricky for me, I'll be honest, is telling a great story has a lot to do with their imagination and things. And I love the creative side of life, but I like it more with crafts and things. That's like my go-to. I would much rather sit down with a 3-year-old and be crafty or play Play-Doh or something like that. That would be amazing. But if you ask me to play house, I'm like, oh, you sure you want to play house? Is house actually what you want to play with and not Play-Doh? See, is Play-Doh? You know, or if little boys with like captain of the ship or something like that. That is not my go-to. I think it is just boring really quick. But I love a story. I love when people tell me stories. I love when they tell me about their life and there's a good storyline to it. So as you are pretending and playing with them, find what works for you to help you engage in the storytelling with. So if I'm going to sit and play kitchen with little girls as we're connecting with them in the very beginning time, you know, I could do the, oh, do you have any broccoli? Oh, there's the broccoli. Oh, do you have any this? And that's like the game, right? That's what everybody plays, which is great for a 2-year-old who's trying to learn to just identify things. But I can make myself more interesting if I'm like, guys, I had a really, really tough morning. I was here at church so early and I didn't get hardly any food, and I just really could use healthy food. Do you have any healthy food? I could start snoring. I could fall asleep on them, and they could rush to my rescue with all of these beautiful things that they've prepared for me because I've given myself a storyline. They're laughing. I'm laughing. I'm playing with them longer because I've been in it. Sometimes, you know, they might even let me get crafty and let's create a menu for our people, you know, and so then I'm combining the things that are in my personality to help me elevate their wonder and the story of what it is they're doing. Or if it's boys and they're captain of the ship or they're pirates or whatever, I will often, you know, elevate the storyline for them by drawing a treasure map. Or we have to rescue the animals that are drowning in the water. I don't know what it is, but just thinking of the story that we can help them create, because they will engage differently with their toys. They will develop empathy. I think we all recognize the power of a great story. And if we help our kids as they play, then, you know, that really just helps them become better players. And church is a great time to do that because we often have a lot of helpers that are really good. I think these ladies up here do a phenomenal job of playing because they're in my room sometimes. And that is so good to just help them learn to play well with each other. I'm going to give you a couple tips of ways that we can use stories in our rooms on a Sunday. Let me just find it here. We can tell stories just about what we're doing. So again, if a crying child comes in our rooms, even the older kids, not just babies, if we can just keep them involved in what we're doing, not putting ourselves in their faces, you know, maybe it means scooping them up and, oh, good, I'm so glad you're here. Meanwhile, they're like screaming in your ear. And you're like, oh, this is so perfect. You won't believe what I was just doing. And I had this happen a couple months ago. There was a piece of tape on the wall, probably because we hung something up there that we thought was fun. And I'm like, you wouldn't believe what I found on the wall. And I was so busy this morning and these guys are all playing and I'm like starting to pick at the tape just to pull it off, and they were crying at first and then I made it really hard and I said, and I've been working so hard, and I'm just telling them the story of what I've been doing, and I would peel part of it. Like, can you hold that? Okay, good, thank you. And so now they're like looking at me and they're wondering and they're collecting tape in their hand and they're touching it and things. just because I'm telling them what I'm doing. And I want you to be interested in the things that I'm doing. And they totally were, and it was awesome. We want to talk to them and tell stories about what they enjoy. Instead of just, here's your snack, okay, order. I love order, I love quiet. You know, engage in snack with them. Guys, one time I went to the zoo, and you know what my favorite animal was? They were so funny, they were everywhere. These penguins were awesome. And so I start talking to them about what they enjoy, and then they're telling me about what they enjoy. And we have all these little stories going around the table about all these wonderful things, which if I wouldn't have sat down with them and just started talking to them, I would have missed out. Also just talking about what I've experienced. What about when we ask those questions that, you know, or we're trying to relate the story that was from God's word that day? Did I take time to answer it? Did I share about what I experienced and how, you know, what I would serve Jesus if he came over to my house? So those are just 3 examples of using stories just a little bit differently that give us good conversations and chats with our kiddos. Next one. Make it a game or a song. This is a great way to speak preschooler, okay? Now, well, let me read this to you first. You motivate preschoolers best when you appeal to their desire to play. Whatever the task, turn it into a fun game. You might even let them take the lead and create the game you can both play. They are wired to have fun with you. We know this is true, and we all know that we have some easy go-tos, right? If they're all on one side of the room and you want them to get to a different side of the room, we say, all right, everybody, we're gonna hop like bunnies. And then they all start hopping like bunnies. You know, we've done that, slither like a snake, you know, whatever, I don't know. Yes, hop like a frog, and the ones that have enough movement, the better, because then they're getting some energy out, right? And so I think what I love about that is that's super simple. Like, preschoolers are great for that. It does not need to be complicated, and they are in and they are thinking you're awesome. So we're gonna just talk through how do we elevate. Like, I don't wanna give you a whole list of games or songs because we already have those in our curriculum. We are really pointing kids to those things and in just little ways. So I'm just gonna give us some buckets of ways to make things a game. So the first thing that we can do is we make it about speed, okay? If you make something about speed, they are all in. So if there's a mess to clean up, and we say, it's time for the 10-second tidy. Quick, 10, 9, and your voice is all in. They are all in, and they're running, and toys are flying, and they may not be getting cleaned up, but they kind of look like maybe they are. I don't know, but you've made it about speed, and things are happening, okay? Maybe if the room is feeling chaotic, and you are like at a loss, okay, make it about speed. What do I do? How can I get control and still make this fun for them? You know, they're everywhere, and you might say, oh, I see all these crazy feet. Let's do faster. Crazy feet, freeze. Crazy feet, freeze. And then you eventually crazy feet to wherever you want them to be, and you freeze them, and they're all there, and you have that control. I always feel really silly talking about this stuff when I'm in front of adults. So you just have to give me a little bit of grace. I would totally do this in front of children, but you guys are a lot more serious. Make it about movement. One of my favorite nursery movement games that I will do, and you kind of hold their hands as you do it, is just about ways that they can learn their fine motor skills, big motor skills, take your pick, but I'll always start with roll, and so I'm like holding their hands, doing this, roll your hands as slowly as you can. Roll your hands as quickly as you can. And then we'll do pound, pound your hands. And you get the picture, right? But that can be anything, whatever, tap, rub, wiggle. You can choose whatever you want. It's just a general movement game. Really great for nursery. Awesome for 2s and 3s, and they can do it on their own. And then you can just see their minds at work as they're trying to wiggle their fingers. Am I doing that? Am I doing what she's doing, wiggling my fingers? You know, and that is really great to just get some movement out. Again, I'm not adding a whole thing to our program. I'm getting them to their seats to get ready for snack. And they're all moving with me, and they're doing that. And then by the time snack is in front of them, they're ready for it and their mind is engaged and they're listening. Make it about speed, make it about movement, make it about rhythm. So again, preschoolers are really great with this, and we know a lot of little sing-songy things, right? But you have to like think back and remember all the words and stuff. But they're so easy, you don't even necessarily, you could make it up on the spot if you really wanted to get their attention. And so like if, I think sometimes it's hard to get them engaged in our verse time. And so if I wanted to get them excited about that time, I might say, I'm just gonna make it up here. I think I wrote some, oh yeah, it's really complicated. It's verse time, it's verse time. Hey, hey, it's verse time, it's verse time, it's verse time. Hey, hey, it's verse time, freeze. So now, I like what I just heard, and I'm gonna give us all an opportunity, because you better not let, if there's a leader in the room who's putting it out there, putting their heart out on the line, you have to match their energy, right? Yes, have you ever seen those memes or whatever they do, those videos about seeing this person is gonna match my energy? So we're gonna do this again. I want you can add sound, you can add dance moves, you can rise to your feet because you were just playing with a whole bunch of toys. Yes, you were. And I say, guys, guess what? It's verse time, it's verse time. Hey, hey, it's verse time, it's verse time, it's verse time. Hey, hey, it's verse time, it's verse time, it's verse time. Woo! Hey, it's verse time, and freeze. And then you can grab that box. You'll never guess what I have in here. Quick, sit down. Quick, sit down. Oh my goodness, wait, I can't get it open. I think we need to say our verse. And then you get them all to say your verse, and then it magically pops open, and you pull out whatever is inside there, which is actually in the 4s and 5s curriculum this week, so you can use that idea. This is not the best box for that. But you know, see how we just brought the energy and the focus a little bit differently to something that sometimes to them is like, it's verse time. You know, that's a lot of words. I don't know if I can remember that, you know. So we're just gonna bring that energy. What else? We're gonna make it about skill. That's the last one. Instead of, did everyone throw their snack cups away? Everybody? Everybody get the, you know, no, we're grabbing that trash can. We're like, all right, snack's over, shoot the hoop, shoot it. Oh yeah, yes you are. You guys are so good. Shoot the hoop, shoot the hoop. We got 2 points, we got 3 points. You know, and it becomes a game. They had fun, and meanwhile, the helpers coming along, setting their craft out or whatever's next, getting ready for the thing because they're fully engaged. The last thing we want to do is just elevate our transitions. That is the last piece of the pie. I have done a lot of different things. It just probably shows how old I am, I don't know. But I've taught first grade, I've taught a lot of small groups or Sunday school classes, I've taught music, and sometimes that would mean like having 200 some kids on stage. I mean, it didn't matter whether I had 5 children or 200 children that I was in charge of. I would lose it. I could lose attention and be just as frustrated with either group if I didn't manage my transitions well. Because as soon as you lose their attention, you have to work like double hard to get it back. So we want to be using the other pieces of the pie in order to elevate our fun transitions. We want to make sure that we're like prepped and ready ahead of the game. Because I think this goes back to really understanding like the first game that we played, the Mennonite Madness. You know, if we were playing Mennonite Madness and I just came up to the front of the room and you guys are like rolling stuff and you're, you know, maybe into it, maybe not. If I said, by the way, first one to this table gets a $50 gift card to Olive Garden, you know, how many of you would have gotten up and come running to the front? I don't care about Mennonite Madness. I like Olive Garden. Or maybe if I said, we're actually giving manicures for the next half hour out in the lobby. You know, feel free to just go enjoy that if you'd like, or, you know, whatever. If we shift attention, the transitions go so much better. And now I'm not saying we should give manicures to little little ones or anything like that, but shifting them to other things that look fun or engaging, just so that we can move them. It's like a gift to them if we elevate our transitions. So let's think of the different transitions. I'm going to kind of plow through this because we need to get to our dessert time. But from the hall to the room, so that's the first transition a child's going to make when they come on a Sunday morning. That's a hard transition to get them from the hall to the room sometimes, unless they're an experienced kiddo, who loves somebody in that room. It can be trying. So we're going to stage the room. We're going to make it look awesome. We're going to set up some toys. We're going to play some music, the music that we had on today. If you like Spotify, there is a first look playlist. That is our curriculum. It's what we use, and it's what I use when I serve in our Woodlands area. I put that on, and the kids have gotten used to it. They start to bop to it. I hear them singing the songs, some of which we sing during our worship times and things. So get that and use that if you'd like to. It's fantastic. If it means having a student in nursery who is responsible, like it is their job every Sunday to get bubbles going on the inside of the nursery room door, so that as babies are getting passed across, they're like, oh, bubbles. Whatever we can do to set up our rooms as a place that helps them just take that one step in and get interested. If they walk into a room that is neat and shiny, they don't care necessarily. If they walk into one where there's a half-built castle, they might want to come finish that. So we're going to look to get those transitions going. Transitioning to snack time. My student helpers have been amazing. They will often come into the room and set up a tray when they first get there, and they'll start putting the snack in. They won't do a ton. Usually they start with about 4 cups of animal crackers and 4 cups of water, and then they just watch as the kids come in. And they just add, every once in a while they'll pop up to the window, they'll add a couple more and keep count, so that when it comes time for snack time, like usually we do it right after Ollie, then one of us hops up as Ollie's saying goodbye. We throw the snacks out on the table, and then we're like, all right, everybody up to the table, and it's all there and it's all set for them. And that's just because we've thought a little bit ahead, maybe about craft time. Maybe you look at the craft for the week and you're like, this is going to take a little organization in my mind. How am I going to have them do this? And so you plot it out with your helper, and maybe there's something that, we've got a bunch of glue eaters in here. Maybe I'm gonna tackle the glue for a moment or something like that. So whatever helps manage that craft time, you probably want to give it some good effort and thought. I think those are some good examples. Now, here's the thing. We are going to shift into dessert time, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But as far as ideas go, I know my ideas are like a small amount to probably what is in this room of ideas. And I know Denise has talked to me before about what can we do to elevate all of the ideas and understand how we can pass ideas to each other in order to help our rooms run amazingly, in order to help us, present God in the best way possible. And so that is what our next session is going to be about. We are going to brainstorm together and think through those things and share as many ideas as we can. I'm interested to hear what you have to think and what you have to share, and that's what we're going to do. But before we do that, we're going to give you an opportunity to think like an artist.